this first-round series.
News from around the NBA, Tony Parker just signed a deal with Charlotte. It's going to be really bizarre to see him wearing any other jersey.
The Kawhi Leonard saga is over. The Spurs traded the disgruntled All-Star along with Danny Green to the Toronto Raptors.
The end of an era in San Antonio. The great Manu Ginobili says so long after 16 years and starts the clock on his Hall of Fame induction.
All that leads to this, a very jumbled up projected depth chart. And I think this is a very fair five to assume might be the opening night starters that Greg Popovich throws out there. But I'd find it hard to believe this is the lineup that would end the season, just because, as Greg Popovich said during media day, if Lonnie Walker proves he's an all-star from day one, I'm not sending him down to Austin. I'm playing him. Right, so we bring in B. Wood and David Griffin to talk about some of these guys. And let's start here with the draft pick, Lonnie Walker, a guy that many have high hopes for this season.
Had a chance to watch a lot of him because, of course, he's an ACC country playing in Miami. And when you watch him play, he kind of struggled early on in Miami. But what always popped off the screen is he could get wherever he wanted to off the bounce. He was very confident, and as the season went along, his game got better and better. He started making plays. You started seeing it sometimes in the summer league as well. But he really started making some good step backs, taking him to the basket. I loved how athletic he was, and I think he gives him that pop. Lonnie Walker is the player I think the Spurs need. They're not going to be sending him down to the D. They're not going to be sending him to Austin. They need him right away because they need as much athleticism and youth as they can in this lineup.
Jakob Poeltl is a guy that came over in the DeMar DeRozan deal and a guy who flourished at times for Dwayne Casey in Toronto. What do you think they can get out of him this year in year one in San Antonio?
Well, once upon a time, David Robinson and Tim Duncan were forming the Twin Towers, and they worked really, really well together. They've done less and less of that as they've gone along, and as the game has grown and evolved and changed, they've certainly been at the forefront of some of that change. But I think what Poeltl gives them now, if he's not starting the first game, he probably finishes it. He's somebody that defensively will really help them in the paint. They struggled mightily the second half of the season to defend in the paint. But more importantly, it's interesting. We saw some clips when we talked about Toronto as well. Poeltl can actually initiate offense for them a little bit, and that'll play to DeMar's strength somewhat as well.
Yeah, I think having a guy like Poeltl is great for you because he can start or he can come off the bench. He's not going to complain either way. And then his skill set, the versatility, that's what the NBA is all about. They say big men are dead. No, big men that can't play are dead. Big men that are versatile have a place in this league. Jakob Poeltl is very versatile. We saw him doing some dribble handoffs in the highlight. Sometimes he's crafty. He can keep the give, make a play, come down the lane, give you a dunk or two. So he can do a lot of different things from this elbow area, and that's very important when you have somebody like DeMar because they're probably looking for him to slice and come off some pin downs as well, and they can get some quick, easy shots.
DeMar DeRozan said during media day, Jakob Poeltl set some of the hardest screens he's ever run into in his life during practice up in the Toronto days. Greg Popovich, speaking about how to use DeMar DeRozan, said he learned his lesson with the issues they had with LaMarcus Aldridge a couple of years ago.
He's already an all-star, and he plays a certain way, so there'll be some things that we'll try to add to his game if he's willing. But I'm not going to jump on him like I did L.A. I tried to turn L.A. into John Havlicek.
Okay, a couple of things here about this. Number one, the Spurs were ahead of the time with shooting the three, and then they've kind of regressed back to the mean, right, and become a team that's worked inside. So you think naturally that fits DeMar DeRozan, who's been a mid-range assassin. But on the other hand, we saw DeMar DeRozan last year make more threes than he ever had in his career. And I also want to point out, too, he became quite the playmaker, averaged more assists per game than many starting point guards in the league, right? So let us see here out in the court how you think Greg Popovich implements DeRozan into this offense.
Well, I think in this situation, for the highlights, we're going to let Griff be DeMar DeRozan. So
why is that?
Well, I think that's clear.
It's clear because he's the best athlete out here.
I mean,
one of the best things about DeMar DeRozan is he is excellent playing in the elbow area and off the mid-post. So, Jared, if I throw you the ball, they can just run what we like to call a simple wide pin down, where you can take LaMarcus Aldridge, let him set a pin down for DeRozan. DeRozan catches the ball, and that's where DeRozan is so good. When he catches this ball on the run, he's excellent at setting his man up. Watch how he moves a lot of times. DeMar will come off the
corner. He's a 47% corner three-point shooter for Portland. When he was taking a high number of threes, that's his corner. So you're going to see them run this action to this side and create the opportunity for LaMarcus to open the floor up for DeMar. And to your point about DeMar's playmaking element, he's going to be able to get the ball to LaMarcus. They're going to be great together in that way.
One more thing about that play. Look at the spacing. When DeMar Jerick hit the ball, when DeMar comes off this pin down that we're talking about right here, when he comes off, if the big stops him at all, it's an automatic pop out to the corner. If they try to switch it, though, now L.A., being the smart basketball player he is, he's not going to go to the corner. I have a two-guard on me. Goes right here, gets it on the block, where he likes to get to his pound game. We can give it to a turnaround jumper or get right inside with his jump hook. So I think that type of action, those type of plays will be excellent for DeMar, but also LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, LaMarcus, his three-point attempts have gone up each and every year he's played in San Antonio, and told me the other day, in fact, that he believes Pop will let him expand that part of his game even more this upcoming season. We'll come back with much more on our Spurs team preview. The starters give us their thoughts on the Spurs playoff streak. Will it continue? Number 7 point on our Spurs team preview. Summer came early for the Spurs. Pau Gasol, who's out over in France to see fellow Spaniard Rafael Nadal win the French Open. And then the two paired to open up a restaurant in London. Pau's excited for it.
Oh, what will they serve him?
Some good food. And free food, hopefully, if we go there. Greg Popovich got some early work in this summer with DeMar DeRozan in Vegas at USA basketball practice. Wonder what they were chatting about there. Now we go across the studio. Skeets and Lee from the starters for the game of True or False.
From the starters with your next point about the San Antonio Spurs, and the question is, will Brent Barry destroy the franchise? I'm just kidding. True or false? This is finally the season the Spurs won't make the playoffs.
False. It's false. Until it happens, I'm never going to say it's true. Because
they're going to make it for a 22nd consecutive year.
Yes, because last year they made it without Kawhi Leonard. Right. And this year they've got DeMar DeRozan, who's still a starter. He knows how to score. He's a veteran. So Popovich has got his good players in LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. They've also got some nice young pieces as well there, particularly Lonnie Walker, who we saw a lot of at Summer League. So I like that. The Spurs just grind out wins. It doesn't matter who's on that team. You or me could probably go there and they'd still make the playoffs. So I think they still make the playoffs. And they're going to miss Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. Not as much as I'll miss Manu Ginobili, of course, but the Spurs are just one of those teams. They know how to win.
They've had a lot of turnover, though. I mean, you see who's new and who's gone. No Parker and Ginobili. It's weird to see. It's going to be very weird to see Tony Parker in a Hornets jersey. Ginobili obviously retiring. Oh, man, I think last year I was leaning towards, that last year was not going to be the year they made it. And it got close. They still win 47 games, and that's with Kawhi playing 9 of them. You're right.
But remember how they closed out that season as well, because that was like basically the last 10 games of the season, and they went on a great run and they got in. And that's how Popovich, that's his experience. And then again, a guy like DeRozan, I mean, people are sort of saying, wow, Kyle and DeMar aren't together anymore, but DeMar's an all-NBA player. So that's a great player you're getting. And Kawhi Leonard, 9 games last year, so the Spurs won without him.
Their defense is always going to be generally, top of the league. Popovich, that's just what he does, top 5, whatever. But I do wonder, can you win in today's game with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, 2 of the best mid-range shooters in the game? Not a lot of threes on this team that are going to be hoisted or hit. So that's the real question. Can Popovich figure that out to make it work with 2 of these guys?
Of all the coaches in the league, it's going to be him who can figure it out. Because remember, LaMarcus Aldridge, they nearly traded him a year ago, and then he came back to all-star form. Yeah. So he's going to have some sort of way of figuring it all out.
Let's hear from you guys. Is this the year the Spurs finally don't make the playoffs? True or false? Let us know on Twitter at #thestarters.
I'll be tweeting at you, Skeets, I promise. We come back. It's prediction time. B. Wood and Griff. Not only the playoffs, but how about 44.5 wins? Can the Spurs go higher than that win total for the upcoming season? Spurs team preview point number 9. Last year, the streak of consecutive 50-win seasons snapped at 18. But playoff streak is alive. This year, they look to make it 22 straight years going to the postseason. If they do it, they match the Philadelphia 76ers for longest consecutive playoff streak in NBA history. Let's talk postseason. Let's talk wins. We'll put the number at 44.5. B. Wood, more or less than 44.5?
Postseason, I definitely think the Spurs are going to the postseason. That's just the Spurs' way. They always find a way to get there. I also have them going north of 44.5. I see them around besting their 47 that they had last year because I see DeMar DeRozan being a bigger part of this team than Kawhi was for their last season.
So 47 was the 8th seed last year. They'll be north of 44.5, but I think they're one of 5 teams to get 3 spots at the bottom of the West.
Do they get it?
They're in.
They're in?
Come on, man. You already know. It's the Spurs way, baby.
B. Wood Griffin, our staff.